Good evening and welcome to the new Bugajski Hour. I'm happy to be back in Pristina to examine important global and local developments that affect the lives of all Kosovars. And today I will be discussing timely political questions with three analysts. And our guests on the Bugajski hot seat are Bajram Gecaj, Deputy Minister of Local Government Administration, Nenad Rasic, member of the Lista Srpska in Kosovo's parliament, and Adrian Zeciri, Executive Director at the European Centre for Minority Issues. But first, my political commentary on an important international topic is entitled America's Populist Utopias. All elections involve promises by candidates that they will improve economic conditions and bolster national security. However, America's current presidential race revolves around two populist candidates who are pledging to deliver some version of utopia, whether of a rightist or a leftist variety. In the rightist or conservative corner stands billionaire Donald Trump, the leading contender for the Republican Party. His campaign slogan, which promises to restore an imagined historical utopia, is to, quote, "Make America great again," unquote. Trump appeals to those who feel left behind in global competition and yearn for a simpler past when America was the undisputed richest and strongest global power. Trump proclaims that he can deliver the promised land based on his successful business enterprises. He asserts that he will create millions of new jobs, eliminate the national debt, and eradicate the threat of terrorism. In the leftist or progressive corner stands the self-declared democratic socialist Bernie Sanders. One of his campaign slogans, quote, "The revolution is coming," unquote, promises a future egalitarian utopia. Sanders, unlike Trump, poses as the common man and has not developed a strong personality cult. But these two utopian visions are underpinned by populist agendas whose similarities overshadow the differences. Trump's campaign involves an anti-Washington message and focuses anger at the corrupt establishment amidst claims of betrayal by political elites. He also taps into a real fear among poorer whites that they are losing their country, both economically and culturally. Hence, he panders to xenophobic and nationalist undercurrents in American society. Trump's core issue is stopping illegal immigration, which allegedly leads to job loss and terrorism. Sanders has focused his attacks on economic elites. According to him, 99% of the population is exploited by the super rich, who brazenly buy out politicians such as Hillary Clinton. Sanders insists that the so-called billionaire class has rigged the political and economic systems, and he mobilizes the anger of young people against the wealthy while promising free healthcare and free college education. In terms of foreign policy, both populists are isolationists. Trump wants to withhold spending on NATO and to reduce the defense of allies such as Japan and South Korea. He will only intervene internationally if American interests are directly threatened. Sanders is a pacifist and an isolationist who would rather disband unnecessary alliances and withdraw militarily from various regions. And both support curtailing free trade and adopting a more protectionist economic agenda. There may be little to choose between Trump and Sanders. It is time for the Bugajski hot seat with Bajram Gecaj, Deputy Minister of Local Government Administration, Nenad Rasic, member of Lista Srpska in Kosovo's parliament, and Adrian Zeciri, Executive Director at the European Centre for Minority Issues here in Pristina. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us on the show.
Thank you for invitation.
Thank you for having us.
I want to cover two issues, two topical and unresolved issues that have led to some major political disputes in Kosovo and actually even disrupted or paralyzed parliamentary work in recent months. And that's, first of all, of course, the question of the association of Serb municipalities, the Zajednica question. And second, one that gets less play, but I think is also a major question, is the demarcation of borders between Kosovo and Montenegro, which hopefully we'll have time to cover both in some depth. So let me begin with your views on the Association of Serb Municipalities. And I want to look at three questions in particular: process, content, and reaction. You know, if we can cover all three. So let me try and be very specific. First question, in terms of process, will the government push ahead with the formation of the association regardless of opposition, political opposition in Pristina? What is your view? Maybe start with you.
Yes, we have an obligation to do that because, as you might be aware, in 2013, the agreement was signed, the first agreement on the establishment of the association. And then this came to the parliament, and it was ratified in the parliament with the 2/3. Actually, 84 people voted in favor of the agreement. Therefore, it became a law. As such, it obliges us to really push forward with the association. However, you know, because of all of the political problems that we have faced in the last 7 or 8 months, the process has really had a kind of a stalemate. Nevertheless, in the end, it has to be materialized because this is what the Constitutional Court decision also says. They have recognized the agreement. They have said that the formation of the association has to go ahead. However, they have set up some guidelines, a framework, which will guide us on how to draft the statute of association, because as you know, the agreement that we have signed on 25th of August in Brussels was just a set of guidelines of how we will draft the statute. And we have sent that to the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court has said that not everything
not everything complies with the Constitution. So will there be changes in the draft agreement as a result of the findings of the Constitutional Court? Maybe Nenad, you could address.
It might be some changes because I understand the element that the Constitutional Court brought to the surface. It is that you cannot usually use the Serb community or Serb municipalities. This association of the municipalities with the Serb majority, and that is the form, or like that is the title of the association. But even though I said even to Mr. Getze the first time after the 25th of August when it was signed, that maybe mistake was made even in the process of signing it. Why we shouldn't do something differently? Maybe send first to the Constitutional Court to make it sure that this is going to be in the form as it is. But no, first we had a sign, then afterwards we have now two sides, Belgrade and Pristina. For instance, Belgrade is refusing to do any of the interference into the documents that are already signed. We could have missed all of this trouble. And the second thing regarding the association, unfortunately, that element, that mechanism is going to be the only one that will remain for some kind of guarantee for the Serbs remaining living in Kosovo. Unfortunately, that is not going to be enough, especially when we have and we see the resistance, not from the side of the opposition just. I have to say that we also have resistance internally in the government itself, because all the processes have been dragged. And I remind you that the Brussels agreement, the first one that was signed in 2013, it was 19 or 17 topics that we're supposed to deal with, and just one was not even finished. The first one was not even finished. With this dynamic, probably we're going to reach some kind of agreement in maybe 100 years. I don't believe that we have that much time. That statute that was mentioned by the Mr. Getze, it was the first thing that was said after the meeting on the, as I said, on the April of the 2013, was statute was going to be like we are making the structure or the team that are going to prepare the statute. Now, 3 and something years after, we still talk about we're going to give the green light for forming the statute. So it means we are delayed, and that delay is, from my point of view, unacceptable. Since we're going to be put on in the corner with not knowing what we're supposed to accept and what that institution or the mechanism or association is going to mean. So it means like on every level, it's like there is a lot of delay. First, from my point of view, to be blamed is the government. The second is communication with Belgrade that is not so good. And the third, of course, it's Brussels. Because, you know, the Brussels, that is like the top goal of every politician and every political party in Kosovo, for instance. But Brussels just deals with the things that are quite surfaced. They don't go in the deep into the realization or implementation.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll come
the
back
third
to this,
to be responsible is the Brussels.
We'll come back to this EU question, Brussels question now. What is your view, Adrian, on the process, basically?
I think the biggest fault of the association has been the process itself, because the association is meant to be a Kosovo institution, and it has to follow a due process of legal and political sort of consultation that would be established as a Kosovo institution granted within Kosovo law. And however, as we know, the process has been sort of put under Brussels dialogue, which did not allow for sufficient consultation and involvement of local, different local institutions in the process. It was completely political, and I think the biggest problem right now is with the process. I don't think there is so much, if you really look at it, if you look at the Kosovo legal framework and some of the sort of political agreements that have been reached, in substance, there isn't much difference. There are some differences, but I think the process has been organized or misorganized in such a way that it has caused the current deadlock in relation to...
What are the main problems in the process? The opposition complains that they haven't been consulted in Parliament. I'm not sure to what degree the Serb population has been consulted on the agreement. I mean, it seems to me that there are some elements missing here in this, as you said, in the process itself. What is your response?
Well, yes, we could have had some more consultations. I agree to that. However, as you know, in the last legislation, we've had the opposition in one or another way participating in the process. While the AAK at that time, Alliance for the Future of Kosovo, they had their representative in the team, negotiation team. The LDK had approved the agreement because the LDK had considered this was of a national interest. So in a way, we did have an inclusiveness of all political parties in the process. This time around, the opposition has refused any attempt to include them within the process, and I believe that this has a political reason behind it, because they wanted to use, or better say misuse, these agreements for their political gains. It was, Nenad just said that it should have gone first to the Constitutional Court. What happened there, what happened in Brussels for some 2 months, we negotiated only the framework of principles of how we are going to draft the statute. So it was not an agreement in itself. The agreement is the first agreement of 2013, and then another legal instrument would be the statute. This was only the principles, and we managed, this was not that easy, we managed to insert within it that in every process, the process will go to the Constitutional Court, what means that the agreement we signed on principles had to go to the Constitutional Court, then the statute would go to the Constitutional Court, and any future amendments to the statute would go to the Constitutional Court. So in a way, we have made sure that as far as legality of the process is concerned, it is the institution that is responsible to do that, that's going to check it. And they did that. So when we say it should go to the Constitutional Court, we should have something to take to the Constitutional Court, and we have this agreement. And the Constitutional Court has said that not everything was in the spirit of the Constitution. They did not say that we violated the Constitution, and then they set up these guidelines of how we are going to draft the statute in the future. And once we do that, again, we're going to send it to the Constitutional Court.
So how long does this process take? Then I'd express some concern that this could take several generations. I mean,
Yes.
how quickly can this be done?
Yes, we have to realize that this is not done in a political vacuum. This is a largely political process. We know that we have a problem in the north. We have, for the first time, we have Serb population in the north participating in elections in 2013. We are trying to really incorporate them into the system. We have still not reached the satisfactory goal. We are in the process there of functionalizing those municipalities. We are in the process of eliminating all of the problems that have been caused throughout these 16 years or so. And that's going to take some time. That's going to take, and within that process, we also have the political environment here in Pristina. You know what happened with the opposition. They were really violent about it. So we have to make sure that everything is done in that political environment. And because of that, everything is being dragged. It's not being dragged only because of our problems. There are problems in the other side too, because we have said, we have agreed while we were in Brussels, that the association would only materialize once all parallel structures are dissolved. So this has to go in parallel. We have to set up a working group that will work on the parallel institutions. Because once we have the association in place, they cannot be, we cannot have any more parallel institutions, and we still have them. Unfortunately, Serbia continues to appoint, even nowadays, even while we are in the process, they continue to appoint officials to those parallel institutions. So everything has to be done in this political environment, and because of that, everything was postponed. That does not mean that the association will not materialize. It will not materialize in accordance to the first agreement and the decision of the Constitutional Court.
Now, in your view, what should be done to speed up this process, but at the same time to make it transparent?
Okay, first of all, from the last signing in the August, one question, what happened? Nothing. We have 8 months after, nothing absolutely happened. And that is not because of the opposition. You know, government keeps going and parliament functions without those difficulties, let's say. So it's not the excuse in this case opposition made a problem so we cannot continue. No. I could just think that could be not really being interested of the continuing the process, seeing the danger, political danger for the certain political parties. So we're gonna push back, or we're gonna be impending till something revolutionary happen, till the Belgrade cut off the structures in the north, and not in the meanwhile doing anything of the making the alternative. I have to say regarding the Serbs in the north, they have never been offered the alternative. They had the only one choice, only one source. That was the Republic of Serbia, financing the people over there. Since we weren't present as a Kosovo institution, and the vacuum was created, of course that they're going to be quite lazy or not interested in being part of the Kosovo institution. Other thing, if it was talked on the August and signed on the principles, so why the Belgrade is refusing to even talk about the changing those principles? From my point of view, it's not logical. If they are the principles could be changed anytime. From my point of view, Belgrade does not want to change. Even maybe I could quote maybe the Prime Minister, that what it was signed, it will remain as it is. We're never going to talk about changing those principles, as Mr. Gassi said. On the other hand, we made, and I have to say that most of the responsibility goes to the Albanian population. When I say that, I mean the government itself, because there is a different level of the responsibility when you are the Prime Minister and when you are a leader of the opposition or the member of the parliament. So, instead of trying to reach and trying to interfere in this integration of the Serbs on the more dynamic, on sincere way, we see, on the contrary, is happening of refusal of those people as a structure and finding just one interlocutor. That is the Belgrade. And we have a paradox now. Instead of trying to make the structure of the Serbs that will be integrated, will be constructive, will be more communicative in the institutions of Kosovo, the Pristina or the officials of the Pristina or the biggest political parties of the Albanians that must have a higher responsibility than the Serbs, rather talk to the Belgrade. So we have absolute underestimation of the importance of the Kosovo Serbs. From my point of view, they are the most important for the society of Kosovo and being democratic and multi-ethnic society. Instead of that, if you want to realize your right, I'm saying myself as a Kosovo Serb, if I want to realize my right in Pristina, I have to go to Belgrade. So how paradoxical could be?
But are you in agreement with this association, the proposals, the
As
structure?
I said, the only mechanism that remains to us is going to be just those leftovers to given to us to manage them. But everyone else will do. I even like one of those ideas that self-determination had, this EU experiment. It sounds like EU experiment in which you are actually, all of those consequences, you have to bear on your back, and you are not able to make a decision about any of them. So, watching from our point of view, Kosovo Serbs, we're going to be the one to suffer or to try to implement all of these agreements. But on the other hand, we are not asked about any of those.
So paradoxically, you're in agreement with Vetevendosje on some of these questions.
No, I just said that some of those ideas I like because they are essentially putting a question mark why this is happening.
Well, self-determination presumably means for the Albanian and Serbian communities at the same time.
I believe that every political party has its own direction and goals. Methodology, how to reach them, are different ones. I do not prefer the violence in this case.
No, I'm not talking about this, but opposition to an agreement that's done above what they see as above the heads of the people concerned.
Opposition always must have idea how to try to undermine the government. That is the job of the opposition. So which way they choose, that is their own strategy. So as we are also into the Serbian community trying, some of us at least, to this influence of the Belgrade, when I say not to reduce, but to redirect, to influence to be in the positive manner. I was trying to suggest even previously that if Serbia, Belgrade wants to help, it would be crucial that if they want to finance the people to remain, if want to remain the people, Serbs in Kosovo, to finance equally, not to have people that are 2-3 times paid for something that they are not doing actually, but to spread, to have an equal treatment for every family regarding how many members of the family they have. That would be so fair, but unfortunately until this moment, no one is really taking seriously my recommendations.
I wanted to come on, Adrian, I'll ask you to not so much the process now, but the structure or the content of the agreement, because I don't think a lot of people necessarily read what it consists of. And I've looked at various parts of it, the proposed organizational structure. First is assembly as a supreme body composed of representatives from each municipality. Is this some sort of, would you call it some sort of sub-state parliament?
Well, I mean, it depends on the final shape of the statute. If we were to look at the recommendations of the Constitutional Court and the first agreement, the association will have a variety. It combines a variety of powers. It has coordination powers, which is normal for association of municipalities. It also has organizational powers, which is that organizational powers of bundling services between municipalities within one joint structure is also allowed by Kosovo law. It's allowed through in Ahtisaari process through partnership of municipalities. It's allowed in the law on local self-government. It's also allowed and specific and extended in the law on intermunicipal cooperation. It has also a combination of direct relationship with Serbia, which is also regulated through Kosovo legal framework. What it doesn't, what it has, and which the Kosovo legal framework doesn't allow, is representation powers in central level, and also the element of community protection, which right now, and especially in the principles, it has. So it protects the interests of Serb community, and which runs counter to the principles of joining municipalities together for the sake of efficiency of services and joint interests. So these elements, especially the community protection element of one particular community, runs counter to the constitutional spirit of Republic of Kosovo. There are very few cases that associations of municipalities has come together based on ethnic principle. One case is the case of Eastern Slavonia in Croatia, where some of the Serb majority municipalities in eastern Croatia have come together. But their rights, if you look at the Joint Municipal Council, their rights are purely as a policy network and consultative in nature.
Sure.
They do not have operational power. So this is a big problem for the legal drafters of the statute, how to bring these two elements together in a way that it will not violate legal order.
Well, for example, the role of the president of the association, and I think it states that he represents the association not only with the central authorities, but also with outside factors, outside powers. Does that mean that he has some independent foreign policy or foreign consultation that he can engage in?
Obviously, it's all open to how it will take the final shape. If you look at the constitutional order, municipalities are basic unit of local self-government. Their powers cannot be transferred. They can exercise certain power jointly, but they remain sole responsible for the mandate that they have. So whether you call it the president or you call it the chair or you call it the powers that president that it should have, if it is to follow the Kosovo constitutional order, should follow that he will have very limited role in terms of representation, maybe on issues of local self-government and on issues of public services, but it will have a very specific and limited role of representation.
Maybe I can ask Bayram, to what degree will the association have executive powers, powers of representation outside the country? How do you see this?
Well, we just talked about the bodies of the structure of the association. It will have assembly, president, the council, which we also have.
The board.
Yes, the board, which we also have in the current association of municipalities. The registered as an NGO. This association of Kosovo municipalities, where you also have certain municipalities members too. So having a president that would represent the association does not mean that that's an executive power, because the current association has the same rules too. The president of the current association represents the association outside of the country too. So that does not entail in itself executive powers at all. This association will not have executive powers and will not be a third layer of the governance. This is certain. And the Constitutional Court decision has clarified that. Not that we had not foreseen this in the agreement, but the Constitutional Court has gone into more detail and they have clarified. Now, Mr. Rasic has just said that the Serb government does not agree to change that, but the Serb government had agreed and had put their signature for the agreement to go to the Constitutional Court, which means nobody can prejudge the decision of the Constitutional Court, neither us, nor Serbia, nor Brussels. So we all agreed that this will go to the Constitutional Court, and then we'll respect that. And we have, because I was asked by a journalist, are you going to respect what Prime Minister Mustafa says, that he will respect the Constitutional Court decision, or what Madam Mogherini said, that the agreement has to be respected? I said what Madam Mogherini says, because she is right. The agreement foresees itself that it will go to the Constitutional Court. Therefore, we will have to respect the Constitutional Court decision. And according to that Constitutional Court decision, this association will not, I repeat that, have any executive powers or be considered as a third layer. It will be an association where Serb municipalities, municipalities with a Serb majority, will gather and will coordinate the work. Nevertheless, powers foreseen by the laws of Kosovo will remain powers of municipalities. And now, even nowadays, the current municipality, they can, for example, the municipality of, the Association of Municipalities of Kosovo, they can gather and they can say, well, we need a school for handicapped children, We only need one in Kosovo. So let's do it in one of the municipalities, in Podujevlje. The other municipalities agree to finance it. So this is a joint venture of these municipalities. Nevertheless, decisions have to be taken in the assemblies of those municipalities. And it will be the same in this situation. And now it was said that this is the last thing remaining for Serbs. That's actually not very much true, because if you look at the legal instruments, most likely Kosovo has more legal instruments than any country in Europe as far as protecting of the Serb community is concerned. We have to implement that. Yes, not everything has been implemented, what we have in those instruments. Nevertheless, we have assurances that the rights of Serb communities will be respected without this. Talking to Belgrade, yes, we are talking to Belgrade because, as I said before, we are not functioning in a political vacuum. We have a problem with the north, and that problem has consisted for now 17 years. And the problem, really, the origin of the problem is in Belgrade. So we have to talk, because we would like to talk to the Serb community in Kosovo and resolve problems with the Serb community in Kosovo. We had done actually that. Most of the municipalities in the south, except for those 4 municipalities in the north, had been incorporated in the system, and they are incorporated in the system. They functioned under our system. We had found a common language. The problem was the north, and we had to resolve that north.
Right. Let me jump in there, because I want to come back to this question. Nenad, what powers should the municipality have, and what powers do you think it will eventually have? The association, I mean. Yeah.
You know, the decentralization that started on the 1st of January 2009. In that time I was a minister, and I know how much competences have been given to municipalities. So they are designed, or at least planned, to create one whole structure to be able to take care of themselves, or about the people of the municipality. Unfortunately, capacities, human resources in those municipalities, regardless of being with majority Serb or the other ones, have shown very weak potential to absorb all of this responsibility, not the powers, but responsibility. So we had many of the challenges trying to additionally educate the people, but that is again the still problem, because we have changes, of course, in the municipality. So the tradition in the Kosovo system is when the first man is changed, everything should be changed. So we are actually ejecting the people that have much more experience to work in those fields than, you know, employing someone else. But association is not going to be just formal group of the mayors talking about and asking together for something. It's going to be more than that. To support this, what I'm saying, you have one article from the agreement signed on the 25th of August, where it says, if I could recall now, that association is a legal subject, and they are able to sign and to create the job contracts. So, if we talk about executive power or mechanisms, to be able to employ 1 or 10 people probably make a difference. The second thing, association could be financed by any of the institutions. So it means starting Pristina, Brussels, Belgrade, China, etc. So it makes it, just in those 2 subjects, it makes it special. The others, it doesn't function this way. It goes through the central budget. The government is Ministry of Finance is trying to all of this money to spread depending on the requests of the municipality. So it means itself that is functioning differently. Unfortunately, to me, realistically, how it looks like, this association of the municipalities, is going to be like a double control of the Serbs. Ironically, but truth. Again, probably the counting on those help that the institutions and some of the lists of the Serb MPs regarding their participation in the elections, and with help of the official Pristina, we had a structure created on the design that came, I could say, not design that was not made in Kosovo, made somewhere else. So probably counting that you have 10 mayors that gonna select or elect someone to be the president, again, it puts you in the position where you are again pushed aside. Someone else is again making decision. Probably those control, as I said, double control for us, again going to be reflected on the way that the association itself could be protecting the interests that is not quite local. So we are, when you say that this is going to be the simple group of the mayors, no, it's not going to be just like that. Legally, okay, we could try to change the word or two. That is why, as the colleague said, it's going to be a problem in the statute, because you cannot define or you cannot put in the paper to sound reasonable with all of this decision that was made without any consultation before signing it. So I'm always self-critic, and we made a mistake in all this process. I don't say that they are the final ones, that we cannot go back, but still, if we could try with the statute to make it to look right, it really should be involved not just the experts of the EU or the Pristina or Belgrade. You must also involve the Serbs of Kosovo, because if we have to live in those institutions or in that association, we at least have to know what is that is preparing for us to...
Should the government take some initiative to consult more thoroughly with the Serbian community?
Good idea. Maybe Mr. Gece could use it.
Well, we can come back to
Could
this
be.
at some point. But
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. But no one yet till so far did not create any kind of initiative as such.
I want to add something here,
sure.
just something briefly. According to the agreement of 2013, in fact, the agreement on implementation of 2013 agreement, because there were two agreements reached in Brussels at that time, there is a management team that is supposed to draft the statute. The management team is composed of 4 Serbs, local Serbs. Initially, it was representatives of the 4 northern municipalities. We have now come to agreement that it will be 2 from north, 2 from south. And that management team is supposed to work together with the Kosovo government, i.e. with the Ministry of Local Administration, where I work, and also with the OSCE. From time to time, we'll travel to Brussels and discuss this. So that's saying the local Serb population, it is included, because it is the 4 Serbs from Kosovo that are supposed. Now, consultations of those Serbs with their base is something that they have to find a way how to deal with that. But it is, the management team is composed of 4 Kosovo Serbs.
Adrian, to what degree has there been consultation? You look at this majority-minority questions in some depth. What's your view on this?
I think there's been a little consultation, and I think in this case there should have been consultation with municipalities, and the municipalities should also return to the center once when the statute is going to be drafted. So I would really recommend that there is a framework statute which will be then allow municipalities to voluntarily enter into some sort of agreement with each other, and then also allow that voluntarily to withdraw for such agreements, because you can't make certain municipalities be in a certain structure forever. So it has to respect the principle of local self-government. They will need to voluntarily enter and voluntarily withdraw. Possibility of voluntarily withdrawing from the agreement, and I think that is very important. Another process that should be beared in mind is that the association is probably one of the most important process of touching on a governance of Kosovo, on a Kosovo legal order, constitutional legal order, and it should not be rushed. And especially should not be rushed through political agreements. I think there needs to be, it's very good that the Constitutional Court is part of the process and should continue to be part of the process, and agreements should be implemented in phases. We know that some of the services in the Serb municipalities are delivered by Belgrade, and of course like education and health, they should not be stopped abruptly and then without having the proper structures that will take it over. But the statute should foresee quite a period of phased withdrawal and introduction of municipal services within these areas.
I want to step back, one step back before I ask the second point on the Montenegro-Kosovo border question. This is sort of bigger picture question. In terms of what's been accomplished so far between Serbia and Kosovo with EU involvement and US involvement, to what degree does the Albanian population here and the Serbian population here feel they have benefited from this process? If you could sort of summarize this as best you can. Maybe start with you.
Well, I'll try and be short because this is a theme in itself,
sure.
if you talk about it, but I'll try to be short. For the first time, we have elections in the north. Mm-hmm. So in 2013, we had local elections where Serb population participated in the north. And now those municipalities are functionalized. Mm-hmm. And we are working daily on that, especially by ministry. We are all the time there in the field, and we are working in incorporating those municipalities into the whole system. So mm-hmm. in that sense, I think both populations from both sides are benefiting. The problem is parallel structures, and we are timely dissolving them. We have managed quite well as far as the police is concerned. We have now reached an agreement on dissolving the Civil Protection Corps that mm-hmm. Existed there. We have found jobs for 500 or around 500 of them. Mm. And we are in the process now of public advertising, second time public advertising for judiciary personnel. Mm-hmm. So there are steps that have been done in order that this part of Kosovo would really be fully integrated into the system. I think we are going to still have some problems. I would say some years to come.
Nenad, has the Serb population benefited?
Moreover, the Serb population will probably lose a lot with the agreement. But if this dissolvement of the old institution take place, when I said I have to separate the Serbs of north and the south, because on the north, even though we talk about that, even though they see on the television, they absolutely don't believe or see it quite not realistic that something could dissolve in those institutions or to the institution of Kosovo to take over. In this moment, absolutely not. Maybe a level of the awareness could last 2, 3, 5 years, I don't know, but in this moment, no. On the south, again, we are the first to be dissolved. And always, you start probably some kind of interesting logic of the politicians. You should cut it where it's the most vulnerable. So some of the institutions actually have some announcement, or the people are guessing, I'm talking about South, that this could be the end of those institutions. One of the, maybe the proofs is that on the 24th of April, there is elections for the Serbian parliament, and also local elections, but those local elections are not taking place in Kosovo. So it means those local institutions logically, probably will dissolve in one moment after they don't have elected people, after the elections, after the new government in Belgrade. So that is, let's say, that is logical thing. Because of those people that are going to be dissolved, as this expression was used, they're going to be cut off of the payments of different kind of salaries, we all going to suffer. Because regardless of the politics, it's very important that your neighbor have incomes, your, I don't know, uncle, your neighbor on the other side, the people from your village, from your town, because if you don't have them, probably you don't have you by yourself. Economy going to be put, if there is any economy in the Serbian municipalities, is going to be put to the floor. Mm. So I'm always saying, if you are doing it, please make something that could provide the minimum of the optimism for those people that they're going to be cut off. There is nothing that has been done so far. Not from side of Belgrade, not from side of Pristina, and my biggest disappointment, nothing serious from side of the EU. Mm. Nothing serious. There is moreover programs that are could be applied from the area of the subject, but not one direction that could be, I don't know, I would start, for instance, for training, for the vocational education, where the people could be eventually informed, first of all, okay, my friend, it's going to be hard for you. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose it in the 1st of January. I'm going to provide to you trainings and whatever you need to make your life easier because you live here with your family. Nothing of that is happening. In spite of that, they are like hiding from it, and every politician that comes, no one says that there's going to be the cut-offs of the jobs. On the contrary, they are insisting there's going to be more jobs. So, I believe that regarding the cut-offs, the Serbs are going to be losers, but also I don't see how the Albanians are winning.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Let me cut you off here because we have very little time. I still
Just a
wanted to
brief
cover
insertion.
very, very brief.
Very brief. Yeah. As I said, we have taken care of the police in the north. They have jobs now. We have taken care of Civil Protection Corps. They have jobs now. And we have an agreement with the EU that once we create this working group on dissolving all of the power structures, they will assist us. We will find jobs for them in the institutions, but for the reminder, the EU will assist us for some time with their funds. So we have a promise here that no one that has a job will remain jobless. So we have to assure citizens of the North that that is not going to happen.
But I wanted to go straight onto the Montenegrin question, and because you're part of the government, I wanted to ask you, can you explain to us how soon this dispute, this border dispute, can be resolved? Remember, Montenegro is joining NATO.
Yes.
The last thing Kosovo wants is a dispute with a NATO member, in other words, with the alliance itself in terms of borders. How quickly can this be resolved?
Well, again, the whole problem around this agreement was a political one. We know that the opposition has really made this an issue. We had, I believe, that a more serious problem when we delineated the border with Macedonia. But at that time, we did not have an opposition that wanted to create an issue out of it. Now we have an agreement signed by the two countries on the delineation, marking of the line. This is not a demarcation, because demarcation comes afterwards. And we had enough of the political space for this problem to be resolved within the institution, even if the commission, the State Commission, had made a mistake. Because this was supposed to go to the parliament. The committee, the appropriate committee in the parliament, could take up to 2 months to discuss this. They could engage professionals within their discussions, and then it had to go to the assembly for ratification with the 2/3. So there was enough political space for it to be resolved in the institution. We did not had to have all of this violence because of it. Now, because of this violence, okay, we have asked, initially we had asked the opposition to bring in their experts, people that they believe are experts, together with experts of the Commission of the Government, and with some international experts. They discussed this. They refused to give us names. Then President invited a team of international experts, 3 international experts, who really, after some half a month of investigations into this process, they came up with the same conclusions as the Commission had come. So now we have 3 institutions saying that the line is there. It is the Commission, it is the State Department. They have issued a statement where they said that the Commission has made a right decision on the demarcation. And then we have the team of 3 international experts who are saying exactly the same. So now this process, now we would need to sit, and I would appeal through this program to the opposition that they really come down and sit down with us, and we discuss how we are going to proceed this within the parliament, because this has to go to the parliament. And the demarcation is linked to 2 very important processes of our 2 countries. Montenegro joining NATO. They have to resolve this.
I would suggest that it's done before the Warsaw Summit in July.
And,
so that
and also Kosovo. One of the criteria, our criteria for visa liberalization is the demarcation. So it is really in interest of citizens of both countries to resolve this. And we invite the opposition to sit down, see everything, all of the findings of these 3 teams, and then they can bring their experts, and we find a way how to proceed further within the assembly, because now it's time for this to go to the assembly.
Adrian, what's your view on this?
I think the professional opinion is that the line that was agreed is the right one. But there is a problem, and social problem, because traditionally the population living in that part of Kosovo has considered the line to be somewhere else. And that can potentially create problems. So I think, you know, from a legal perspective, things are clear. There's been different commissions that have certified the same decision. But I think there should be some negotiation with Montenegrin side. If there should be some sort of understanding that maybe you know, lines are moved or you know, a different line is renegotiated with Montenegro. I don't think Montenegro wants to have trouble with Kosovo. Kosovo doesn't want to have trouble with Montenegro, so it's a sensitive issue, and I think it should be resolved with Montenegro under the sort of in good faith and understanding.
It's to your geostrategic advantage to resolve this as soon as possible.
Yes.
To Prishtina's
for both sides.
Unfortunately, we've already come to the end because we have little time. Thank you for joining us. We'll come back, I'm sure, to the question of the Serbian population and the association and other agreements. And I'm sure we'll have other programs on this question. But anyway, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. And unfortunately, we have already come to the end of today's show. I have greatly enjoyed being with you and with all my colleagues here at RTK. Good night, everyone. Stay healthy, be productive, and remain optimistic. See you all very soon. Mira Pavshim.